of the coolest things about tech or working with fast growth companies is you can grow and you can pivot multiple careers in just a short amount of time. So you actually started, and I know a lot of people in my network who started in tech the same way. They started in, whether it's in sales or customer success, customer support. And then for you, you grew into product. When you say product, are you saying product design or product management?
It was a little bit of both. So
Okay.
I did like product designed the first iteration of the iOS app. Worked with the designer to kind of clean it up, but kind of the core flows and the user experience was largely handled by me. And then after that, it was more product management. So making sure that engineering had the proper tasks to make kind of this whole thing come to life, and the capital markets team making sure that we had liquidity in the right places, so those execution like large order executions could be executed.
Interesting. So you became product. And then at that point, you said it just confirmed your excitement and interest within product, right? Which is the whole reason why you got
Absolutely.
another job afterwards. So I believe you had one other product position?
After that, it was straight into Ellis. So
Oh, wow.
I was 19 when I joined River, 21 when I left, and then 21 when I started Ellis.
Wow.
So it's been a journey thus far.
Gotcha. And so this is your first venture-backed company?
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were entrepreneurial, you experienced customer support, you became product. How helpful was it to work in a product capacity before you decided to create your own software product? Like, was a lot of people in our industry say it's very, very helpful, it's critical. Some people say it's not that helpful, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I do think if you're building a high scale technology company, most of the battle is product, and kind of everything trickles down from there. So especially if you're building a financial product also means you have to take care of legal compliance, following the KYC AML laws, and seeing how that plays into the user experience. So I really like that I could touch a bunch of these disciplines, design, engineering, compliance, legal, and making sure that kind of crafting that in a way where the end user experience is as smooth as possible. To answer kind of your second question of whether I think that helped me start Ellis, or if I suggest founders to kind of work in a product capacity before starting their own company. I actually think, I don't know how product is run at larger organizations, but I definitely think being involved in the product development cycle at a small scale startup before you start your own thing was kind of very critical in my growth personally. Interacting with designers and engineers on a daily basis, you get to kind of understand how products are built. And I really like the Steve Jobs quote of, everything that's built around you was built by people no smarter than you are. I largely think that people typically underestimate what they're able to do when they put their minds to it.
Gotcha. So let's talk about Ellis. And I know that you're able to give us like a high level of just the pain point, a personal pain point that you experienced previously several years ago before you started Ellis. And then now I think this stayed within your mind. And then now you have a little bit more experience working in different capacities within tech. And then you're like, okay, I'm ready. So how if you can just share your experience for the audience, like how was it just an immediate cold turkey kind of start, or while you held on to your job on the side, did you find a co-founder and you started maybe tinkering away on the MVP to go fundraise? Like how did that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my story is a little different than everyone else. I actually applied. I was planning to stay at River for kind of the foreseeable future, but when I applied for the H-1B work visa, which is a lottery, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but it's a lottery where basically you have a 30% chance of staying in the US. I unfortunately was not chosen, so I was kind of stuck between either starting my own company to get something called an O-1 visa, or basically get deported from the US. So I opted in for the former. And I've always had this idea of Ellis. I had this like vague notion that there should be a company built catering towards international students and then eventually the entire immigrant class. By 2025, the US government estimates that 50% of population growth is going to come from immigrants. And it's kind of absurd to me that no technology company is specifically focused on this space.
How do you successfully manage a global team across multiple time zones while making sure everyone is locked into the culture and the energy of your HQ there in New York?
That's a great question, and that's something we're still figuring out. What I like to do is I like to make sure that everyone has a buddy at the company. I found that that does really well for retention. The goal for a CEO, especially for a small team in the first 30 days, is making sure that they have a friend within the company, whether that's remotely or co-located in the same city. I think that's really, really important for the culture.
Are there any values or main principles or tenets that you believe in or you want to maybe instill in every new person that joins Ellis, to touch a little bit more about culture and just the internal environment and working at a company like yours?
So there's basically three key principles that we preach to every new hire. One is be customer obsessed, right? We're in the business of simplifying the immigration journey for international students and then eventually immigrants. The company is not the product. The product is secondary. What we're offering is a simplified immigration solution, and our products back into that. So always think from the customer's perspective and make sure that they have the best experience possible, and almost be like a coach or guide to them, whether that's through products or through kind of our philosophy with customer support. So that's one. Second is build impact through simplification. I think it's really, really hard to find people who think simply, making sure that whatever solution that they come up with is elegant and straight to the point. And, this should translate into everything we do. So like our products, our internal processes, architecture, features, code, all of that stuff, making sure that simplicity is at the core of Ellis, given that, we're helping students in a very complicated time in their lives. Given that we're dealing with multiple products, I think making sure that everything within the company is simplified is super important. And then third is attention to detail. I like hiring people who spend the extra hour, spend the extra weeks to make sure that every nitty-gritty thing in the app or our internal processes or kind of the way we deal with the partners is perfect.
For sure.
And people who go that extra mile to craft something kind of beautiful is very important.
Especially for what you're trying to build. You definitely need people that are very detail oriented and they're willing to move fast, keep things simple, so that you guys can keep executing as you continue to grow. That totally makes sense. For people that are maybe considering joining Ellis, like you've obviously touched upon where you stand hybrid. Is there maybe perhaps some X factor? Like, why would somebody want to join Ellis? Is there something that you guys do differently? You offer something different, or you just, for example, just do the basics like really, really well? Like, why would somebody take a serious look in Ellis as a possible future employment opportunity?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And what I found that resonates with most people and keeps me entertained is that, I get bored very easily and I'm very impatient. Those are kind of my two perils. Ellis is the perfect company for me because I can work across multiple products and explore, many domains. So one, Ellis Mobile is completely in the telecom space, and Ellis Money is in the banking space. Those are two very completely different silos. And so kind of our engineers, our design folks, and our customer support people can actually learn about a lot of things, kind of work across industries. So, you don't really get to do that. Excuse me. You don't really get to do that with other companies. And so kind of joining us will kind of expose you to a broad range of industries, how they work, how products in those companies work, what are the perils, what type of things you have to deal with, like fraud, compliance, all that stuff. So that's been super interesting. And kind of the people who join us really like it as well. Going back to your question about like what philosophies you instilled, this reminded me, we have a strict no acronym policy. Because we're working across so many industries, it's very important that the team doesn't get bogged down with nuances of like ACH or like MVNO or IICID. There's, a lot of these industries have their kind of specific acronyms that they like to use, and we try to abstract that away as much as possible. One key tenet is never be afraid to ask what an acronym means. And if you're the person using the acronym, if someone asks that, stop using that acronym.
I love that. Again, going back to what you said, keeping things simple as well.
Correct.
Right. And just making it relatable to everybody. A lot of feedback that we also get through the audience is like just navigating a team and a company in this environment. I mean, we thought we saw the end of it in 2020, but now we're in the middle of what a lot of people say a recession, or walking up to a cliff, soon to be a horrible recession. So what are you seeing in terms of the market from your perspective? And in terms of like just hiring and recruiting, especially now that we're filming this is August 2022, where a lot of companies have slowed down. Well, on the flip side, a lot of smaller companies are actually speeding up and becoming more aggressive. Like what are just your thoughts of like what's happening right now and what could happen into the future? Whether it's like business strategy wise, but also just recruiting wise as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, I think we are in a recession. I don't really know why the administration decides to kind of redefine the definition of it, but 2 quarters of negative GDP growth is a recession historically. We are in a recession. I just want to preface that. Second, we had the privilege of timing our seed round perfectly right before the recession, and so we have enough capital in the bank for 2+ years of runway, which kind of allows us to execute on our vision without worrying too much about the macroeconomic environment. To be completely frank with you, I don't think about it too much. I know that I don't think it would have changed the trajectory of our company if there was a recession or if there wasn't a recession. The core risk of early stage startups actually isn't the macroeconomic environment. It's more finding product market fit.
If you were to give maybe an advice or some of the lessons learned that you learned along the way for would-be founders that hope one day to follow in your footsteps, like what would it be?
That's a tough question. I think it's really important for someone to find a problem they're passionate about. I think that's step one. Find something you want to solve in the world. Maybe a company isn't the best idea. I think everyone wants to start a company. Maybe it's a nonprofit. Maybe it's a YouTube channel. I don't know what the answer is, but like the company is not the end all be all to solve a problem. So first, find a problem that you want to solve. Think of a company as like a mechanism to achieve that goal. For advice for people who want to raise venture capital, my biggest advice is go work at a startup. Go work at an early stage startup. Find out how the sausage is made, and then evaluate whether you want to do this for the rest of your life, or at least 10 years, right? Because it takes 5 to 10 years to build something substantial in the world. Yeah, my biggest advice would be, go work at an early stage startup, and don't be afraid to do, the grunt work. I was fielding customer support tickets. I was ordering the snacks at the office. Everyone has to start somewhere.
Would you think if you've gone back in time, you would have, I mean, I think you even said that you would have stayed at that job much longer. And then even if you were to start a company like Ellis, it wouldn't happen for much that as soon as it probably would have, right? If it weren't for the visa situation. But like at the same time, I think starting a company, you can never be ready to start a company. So I guess in retrospect, are you just happy it just played out the way it did? It sounds like, for all the new learnings and challenges you're facing every day, you're seeming like you're just slowly checking off all the boxes from raising your initial first, second kind of early rounds of funding to finding a co-founder to creating a small team to now building multiple products. To me, it seems like a very impressive inspirational story. And for you, I'm sure it just feels like today is like any other day and you're just trying to figure it out and putting out fires. But are you happy the way it turned out? Of course, you really can't change the past or the future anymore. But I guess looking back sometimes, I kind of want to ask, like, do you kind of chuckle to yourself and like, wow, like I can't believe, we are where we are today. And I thought my life was going to go one way. We're here and it's great.
I'm never the type of person who has like a 2, 5, 10-year plan. I kind of just roll with the punches. And so I think you're completely right. I don't think anyone's ever ready to start a company. And I think the threat of deportation was definitely a forcing function for me to start the company. But, I have this kind of intrinsic self-confidence in a way where, I think I could figure out most things that life will throws my way. That really helped. It's like, oh, okay, this happened. I can't really change what happened. I can, be sad about it for maybe like 2 hours. And then after that, I just got to figure it out from there. And I think that kind of attitude is really important in a founder.
So I guess for people who are just resonating with this, what is your next product that you and your team are working on, and what's the timeline of it going live?
Yeah, we're gonna keep that close to our chest, but kind of what we're currently working on and our main initiative for this next 6 months is making sure our first 2 products is as good as possible. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done to make sure that all the flows are smooth. We want to build peer-to-peer payments for our banking product. We want users to be able to see, what active subscriptions they have coming out of their bank account. We want to build ATM maps, so being able to, easily identify what ATMs are near you in the best way possible. So, just building features for our first two products is our main focus for the next 6 months.
And I guess just as a final topic before we close, for people who are sincerely excited about your mission and hope to one day apply, what are some of the future roles that you think you might be hiring for into the future? And if people want to apply, how would they apply?
Yeah, that's great. We're always hiring engineers and designers. So, even if we're not hiring, we're willing to make roles if you're an exceptional person. We're also going to be hiring someone on the legal side. That plays into kind of our next product, but we want to hire a legal professional in-house, possibly a general counsel. And you can find us at joinellis.com/careers. So that's joinellis.com/careers. And our role should be listed there. If you think there's a role for you that's not there, we have a general application as well, and just generally tell us how you think you can help us, and what you would like to do at the company.
And one more time, aside from just the core competencies of engineering and design, are there any specific things you would also be kind of looking for the X factor within an applicant? I know you mentioned if they had some exciting projects on the side, or they are able to show the variety of perhaps like different ventures or projects, the important elements that you'd be looking for in terms of like your team, whether it's like moving fast, keeping things simple. What are some things people can do to maybe stand out to hopefully be able to be one step closer to join your team?
So two things. I think it's really, really helpful if you were either an immigrant or an international student. I want someone who viscerally understands the pain to work at Ellis. I think that's a really, really good thing, at least for our company. And then second, what I found is people who worked at, school publications or newspapers or yearbook, I really like hiring. It's the closest thing to a startup that you can get in a traditional educational system. And so I was the editor of my yearbook in high school. It's the closest thing there is to being a founder. I think there's a bunch of founders that also came out of the Stanford Review. Parker Conrad at Rippling was the editor at the Harvard Crimson. I think if you look at the history of editorial newspapers at universities and high schools, and then founders or early stage startup employees, I think that crossover is very high.